We are heading into summertime, which I know is the time of year you want to feel your absolute best so you can enjoy barbecues and your beach vacation totally stress free, feel confident at the pool with your kids or friends, and not let a spontaneous afternoon ice cream cone turn into a binge. In my Confident Eater program, we will create your dream eating habits and help you stop binge eating for good. Now, I only open my small group program twice a year, and it is the lowest investment option to work with me. This is a super high touch, high support group. So I only have 8 spots left before we close for good Tuesday, May 13th, and then will not reopen again for another 6 months. So if you are listening to this in real time, make sure you get your consultation booked ASAP. Details in the show notes. Hello, Confident Eaters. I'm here with someone super special and super exciting today, and that is my client Jen, who is finishing up in the Confident Eater program. And we are going to talk about some of the changes she's made today. And I want you to listen to this episode, really understanding the changes that you can make in your life too, and seeing them as possible, and hopefully get some awesome tidbits that I am sure Jen will share with us today. So, Jen, why don't you introduce yourself and share a little bit about your relationship with food?
Hi, I'm so happy to be on your podcast because I've listened to so many and learned so much from your podcast. So hopefully, this will help someone else out who is trying to get a handle on their relationship with food. But I guess I'm 6 months into your Becoming a Confident Eater program. So about to graduate, which is so exciting. I remember when it started because I've been listening to your podcast for a while. I felt like something had to change. So I got into the podcasting app and I was trying to figure out binge eating, food eating, overeating. And yours is one of the first that popped up. So I started listening and learning so much. And I had heard other people's stories of being in your program. But at the time, I just had so many expenses. There's always something with vet bills and car repairs. And I remember it finally hit me when we had a consultant at work, and when he's in town, there's so much food. We're going out to eat or it's brought in. And I remember one day I wasn't very hungry. My stomach had kind of been off, but I still, like, first thing in the morning, they had breakfast. So I'm going to town with the avocado toast and then, I don't know, berries and just too much food. And I thought, I don't want to still be doing this. This doesn't feel good. I'm not enjoying this experience. So that's when I reached out and said, I need to join your program. I was going to put it off a little longer until I, got in a different place financially. And I was like, I can't wait anymore because I don't like how this feels. And it's amazing to look back and see how much change has happened since then because of that decision to say, there's always going to be things that you can spend money on and time on, but you have to eat every day. And it's just not something that I wanted to delay trying to figure out any longer.
Yeah, and so I know when you came into the program, you had tried a few things before. One thing that I remember is you said that you were trying calorie counting and intermittent fasting at the time. What made you decide that you wanted to try something different? Because a lot of people will come into me doing something similar or thinking, oh, if I just stick to my calorie count harder and try harder with that maybe things will change.
I felt like I needed to pay someone to have accountability because I'd been trying the same things for a while. And it's not like I feel like I have a whole lot of weight to lose, but I was tired of feeling bloated, tired of feeling like I can't have the fun foods in my house because I'm just going to tear through them and then feel horrible and then maybe do it again. Like something in that relationship needed a change. And I'd also kept food logs before and I love working out. So it's not like I don't enjoy doing those things, but I think for so long I thought I can eat whatever I want if I work out enough. And that just wasn't translating. I felt like I'm working too hard and working out and not seeing the results that I want. And I felt like I have nothing to lose by reaching out to someone who has experience with this because I didn't really know. It hasn't really come up in my group of friends, people who binge eat, and maybe they do, but maybe they're ashamed or embarrassed by it. So they don't really discuss it. And I remember I was at a conference one time. It was the financial peace type thing. And one of the speakers was talking about eating a sleeve of Oreos. And that was the first time I'd ever heard, oh, someone else does that too? And it feels so good when you realize it's not just you, but you also don't want to stay there. Like, I didn't know what the next step is for recognizing, oh, okay, I'm not the only one that does this, but I need to figure out
Mhm.
how do I work through this. And so I think it just got to a point where I was ready to pay for help and ask for help and see what's the worst that can happen by trying something new.
Mhm. You mentioned a really important thing there, which is so many people feel alone in this. Like, oh my gosh, I'm probably the only one who's struggling with this, and I feel so ashamed of it. When really it is so many more people than we imagine. And I remember when I started, like the first day I posted on my Confident Eater Instagram account, it was like 5 years ago. It was a while ago. But I remember I posted and I was so nervous. I texted all my friends, hey, can you go like my post? I'm starting this new business. And I was so excited. And I was so nervous what everyone would think about me that I was telling them I struggled with this. And what was so interesting is pretty much every single one of my friends said, oh my gosh, I struggle with this too. And even
Hmm.
if it wasn't to the same degree of, oh my gosh, yeah, I binge eat too, it was something along the lines of, oh my gosh, I felt really insecure in my body. Or, oh my gosh, I'm having a really hard time figuring out balance with food. Or, oh my gosh, I obsess over food all day long and I can't stop thinking about it. And so I think we often think as women, especially, probably really alone in this, but we're all connected, unfortunately, in so many more ways than we know with struggles around food and our body and shame around both of those things and just the diet culture world we live in. And so I'm really glad that you decided, hey, I found someone who has struggled with this too, and I'm not alone with this, and recognize that it's not just like a you problem. It's really something that's grown so much larger, especially over the years, and that there is help for too.
Yeah, exactly. When you feel like no one else gets you, you don't know what to do with your situation. And so you just keep
Mhm.
trying the same things over and over, hoping, okay, at some point, maybe this will stop on my own, or I won't keep eating late at night when I'm not really hungry. But hearing stories of other people and then getting your emails too and realizing, oh, okay, they made progress. Where I am
Mhm.
right now is not where I have to stay or wind up.
So tell me some of those thoughts that you had in the beginning of the program where you were still struggling and some of the things you wanted to work through and change.
Think there's fear when you're so used to doing things a certain way. Even if it doesn't work, there's fear in trying something different. I had a fear of not having enough food. And I think it stems from childhood. I remember being at a babysitter's house and she was serving corn dogs. Everyone loves corn dogs except for me. And I didn't know we didn't have them at home really. And so I remember sitting at the table and thinking, everyone else has left. I'm the last one here. And she had this rule where you had to eat all your food. And I was just sitting there. I was dreading eating this corn dog. I liked the
Mhm.
breaded part on the outside, but I'm just not a hot dog kind of gal. So I'm
Mhm.
sitting there, and finally she let me get up from the table, but I must have been hungry. And then there was another time at her house too. She was passing out snacks, and I wanted more snacks. And she said, no, you already had
Mhm.
enough. And just those little things, I think, planted seeds. And she's a great person. It's nothing against her. I think it was just different decades ago of clean your plate, and I'm going to tell you how much you can have. To where I think those just planted the seeds of feeling like I'm in this scarcity mindset. So when there is access to food, I just got to go for it because I don't know when I'm going to get more. And it's not like
Mhm.
I grew up in a household where that was an issue. There's always plenty of food around. But as
Mhm.
when you develop those thoughts in childhood, they stick with you. Because I've seen having
Mhm.
scarcity mindset in other areas of my life too. But I really think it was those experiences when I was little that led me to think, oh, if there's food around, I have to have all I can have because I don't know when I'm going to have more. And so it would lead to things like
Mhm.
eating way too many Oreos or Girl Scout cookies or the Costco-sized bag of chips and then feeling
Mhm.
guilty and then throwing it away. And then next time I'm at Costco, well, let me get a bag of chips again because maybe this time I won't eat as many. Like just doing the same things over and over and recognizing something doesn't work, but I don't know how to do something different.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think so many people can relate to that fear of not getting enough, whether it was from an experience in childhood or our diets that we do can artificially put us in that mindset of, I don't know when I'm going to get this again, because we think, okay, if the diet told me not to have it, I probably shouldn't be having it. And so it creates this mindset around it as well. Something else I know we worked on a lot together is when you were eating from boredom and out of habit, which I know also so many people can relate to. And there was a lot of like mindless eating where you were just going throughout your day. And Jen is a very busy, very successful person at her job. And so I know that you work so hard. And so sometimes it's hard to take that time and space away for your self care and to eat with food. So tell me about where you were at the beginning with that, with boredom eating and how you changed that.
I think it started when I was in a job and I would get home around 3:15 and I would have just enough time to let the dogs out, grab a snack, and then I had a side gig that I was doing. So in my mind, I thought I just have this maybe 15-minute window, 10-minute window for me right now. Let me come home and I would stand at the counter and eat and eat and eat, even if I wasn't hungry. And it became a habit to where I'd get home, let the dogs out, and just stand at the counter and eat. And I remember one of your podcasts, you were talking about plating your food and try not to stand at the counter and eat, but sit down and enjoy it. And I started doing that. And I thought it's such a simple change, but it's so impactful. And we also talked about not being on a device when you're eating. And that was another
Mhm.
thing, too. I felt like, okay, after a long day, I want to reward myself and catch up on some news headlines or different websites that I like or watch some YouTube videos and eat because I'm so used to eating in front of something. And then I would realize inevitably I'm eating more and I'm trying to multitask here because I'm trying to reward myself, but it
Mhm.
doesn't feel good because, again, I'm overeating. So then I don't feel great or I didn't really appreciate it or I'm just watching more than I normally would. And then it kind of became, I felt like it wasn't setting me up well for the rest of the night to do some other things because I'd already created this zone of spacing out. And so at night, instead of maybe being as diligent in doing my workout or reading or writing or praying or Bible study or whatever, I think I would just wind up spending more time on my phone because I'd set that habit and
Mhm.
I felt like, oh, I've already kind of gone off the rails here. So let me just stay off the rails. That all or nothing mindset, that's something that we've worked on too.
Yeah, and what have you noticed as you have been mindfully eating more and some of, like, the benefits of doing it?
I'm enjoying it. I'm trying to remember. I think I was eating avocado toast. I think I mentioned avocado toast a couple times in this program. I was eating some yesterday, not in front of my phone. And I thought, I so enjoy this. And it's nice to have a few minutes of quiet too to give my brain
Mhm.
time to reset and then
Mhm.
focus on what I want to do next. Because, I'm also working on just not going through life distracted. And if
Mhm.
I don't stop and let my mind reset after a long day, then I'm going into the night distracted and not as focused. And so
Mhm.
it's nice not only to enjoy and taste my food, but the whole plating of it, getting it ready, having the meal being an experience, especially after going all day. It's like my reward can just be sitting here and having some quiet. So then I can really think
Mhm.
about what do I want to do next rather than autopilot of, oh, well, let me get on social for 5 minutes or 25 minutes. I just feel like it's helping to use my time more efficiently
Mhm.
too.
And it really becomes more intentional too, where it's like, okay, now is sitting down and eating time versus, okay, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. And it's like so much multitasking is happening. And then we don't get the pleasure of the food that we want. Right before this, I was drinking a cup of tea and I literally looked down and my tea was gone. And I was like, where did my tea just go? I literally just made it. I had drank it all because I was so involved in writing an email. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was so sad. I was really excited for that tea and now it's gone. And so this can happen with, like, food, with drinking tea. It can happen when you're on a walk. If we're, like, really mindless and we're, like, I don't know, listening to a really intense podcast, sometimes I'll, like, take out my earbuds and be like, "Oh my gosh, it is such a nice day out." I didn't even recognize that because I was so in my head with that podcast I was listening to. So really having that opportunity of, let me use this time to slow down, to be mindful, to tune into my body, and noticing how that increases your food pleasure so much more, which means we're less likely to want to go back and get more of it, right? Because then you actually get the satisfaction.
That's exactly what I noticed after my meal last night. Another thing I did too, I brought like the main thing I wanted to eat. I set it down on the table and there was something else, like a smoothie, thought I'd finish up, but I left that on the counter. So I sat down, ate my main food, thinking, okay, if I want more, I'll get up. But I'm just trying to set the habit to think, do I really want that? Whereas if I set all this food on the table, it's just easier to reach for it and not think through it. So I finished my meal. I sat there and I got up and I thought, I don't really want the rest of that smoothie. And that feels
Mhm.
so good to listen to my body, to put it back in the fridge and think I can have that today if I want. Like
Mhm.
just getting more in touch with what is my body trying to tell me. And it feels so good
Mhm.
to see that kind of progress. Whereas in the past, I would have blown right through it because I would have just automatically reached for another bowl of snacks or just finished the smoothie. It's
Mhm.
almost done anyway. I'm just thinking about things differently, but I'm not even having to think about them nearly as much as I used to.
I'm curious because you calorie counted in the past too. Something that I went through is I had a hard time always finishing food because it felt like before when I was counting calories, there was only so much I was allowed in the day. And so I wanted to make sure I got my calories worth. Did that ever come up for you? And if so, how did you navigate it?
I think sometimes I would just eat what I wanted and think, oh, I'll eat less tomorrow. And that's how that'll work out. Or I'll
Mhm.
work out more
Mhm.
tomorrow. Or it could lead me to this scarcity mindset of telling myself, I'm starving, I'm famished, even if I wasn't. But it wasn't really me telling me that I was full. I was letting the app try to do the work for me. And some
Mhm.
days it was probably effective, but other days maybe I wanted more. Like maybe I had just done more, or maybe my body just needed more, but it wasn't teaching me to listen to what my body was trying to tell me.
Do you think slowing down with food and removing the distractions helped you understand and trust your body more?
Absolutely. Yes. I think, the calorie counting apps are probably great for some people. There are things that it couldn't teach me. And I
Mhm.
remember there's one gal that I follow on social and she talks about using it and she's ripped. And at times I would wonder, am I just not as disciplined as she is? What's my deal? But
Mhm.
I had to take a step back and realize we're all different, and that may
Mhm.
be the tool that really works for her, but I need something else.
This is why I call our hunger and fullness signals the best calorie counter in the world because they are custom tailored and made just for you. Like, how lucky are we that we each get our own built in calorie counter to let us know our hunger and fullness and what we need? And some days we might need a little bit more, and some days we might need a little bit less, but it's learning to trust that it will all work out in the end if we are truly honoring it. Because sometimes we think, well, I have tried listening to my body. But people are not listening to their body, they're listening to their mind and their urges around food because your true body will let you know, "Hey, I don't wanna overeat anymore because that hurts me and it doesn't feel good." So what are some of the other breakthroughs that you had within the program?
Well, there's been two. Okay. So I was out walking the dogs earlier and I was thinking about how your program, it's called the Confident Eater program. But
Mhm.
inevitably, when you make a change in one area of your life, it impacts everything else. And so while it's your program is primarily based on food, I find it's helped me with my finances. I've been doing the Dave Ramsey, so using cash at the store, buying less because I'm not eating as much. So that feels
Mhm.
really good. I'm not spending as much at the store. I'm not going to the store as frequently.
Mhm.
So that's been something that I've noticed. And I feel like it's also helping me with my time because you and I have talked about time management and, habit trackers and things like that. So
Mhm.
I just feel like it's impacted so many areas. So that was one of the things that I've noticed. I've also realized I'm just so used to being gaslit just with long-term relationship that I
Mhm.
think if I wasn't in a situation where someone else was doing that to me, then I would do it to myself, often through food.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
just realizing that it made me really sad that that's been my mindset for so long, but also to see that I can make progress and I can treat myself differently than I used to treat myself. And also with boundaries, not letting other people treat me ways that I don't want to be treated or tolerate anymore.
Right. Because when you can do that for yourself of deciding like, I don't want to be treated this way anymore, you're also sending the signal to your body in a sense that I'm not going to treat you this way anymore. And it reinforces this new boundary that you have with other people, but also with yourself. And when we stop at fullness, that's a boundary we're setting with ourselves of saying, I don't want to go past this level that my body has so clearly communicated to me that it doesn't want me to go past. And so I think these two things go hand in hand. And like, I always tell people, like, when I'm interviewing them, like, you never expect your life to be changed, but like, I'm gonna change your life because it does relate to so many different areas. And we don't even realize that. We're just so caught up in the struggle with food. And it's just like, I just want to feel normal around food. I just want to get rid of these food habits that we don't realize like how many other areas of our life can benefit from us working on our relationship with food, whether that's feeling more confident in ourselves so that we go set boundaries in our life, or if that's prioritizing financial goals because now we're saving money on food. But also something that I wanted to point out with all the work we did on your financial goals was this idea of a scarcity mindset. And I know you mentioned it briefly, but a scarcity mindset is what we would call like a very coachy term that most people don't know what that is at first. And so if you're listening to this, a scarcity mindset is when you think things like there's never enough, I always need more, I have to hold on to things. You feel like you hoard things, whether this is with clothes, with money, with food, with love and relationships. It can really be in any area of life. And so a lot of times we see a scarcity mindset with food show up in always wanting more. And it's like no matter how much we eat, we never feel satisfied and we feel like we just need more and more and more. And that's what you kind of recognize around hunger is like, I'm scared to be hungry because I'm scared there's not going to be enough. But then that can also translate into our money mindset, where with money, we think that there's never enough and I always need more and I need to hold on to it tightly and be really careful with it because I don't want it to go anywhere. But the irony is that when we do that, it actually makes our relationship with it so much worse. And we often don't make more money. We don't spend money in ways that would grow us and help us with our investments and that would help us long term financially. And then, same thing with food. If we don't go into an abundance mindset, we're holding on to more food than we actually need, and we don't get to enjoy all the benefits of becoming a natural eater. So I think it's really fun that you got to see these connections happen in other areas as well.
I don't know what I expected with the program, but there's been so many positive changes throughout the course of it that I didn't expect. I think I just thought she's going to help me not eat Oreos late at night or not keep going back for more food when I'm not really hungry. And yes, that's been a big part of it, but there have been a lot of other things that I've learned too.
One other thing I want to point out with you is I feel like you made a really big transformation in just like a month or two. And I think one of the reasons why that is one, as we mentioned, you decided you're going to be financially committed. You have some skin in the game now. You have some accountability, but also you were so amazing at celebrating your wins. And I was always so proud to see a message from you come up because you always found something to celebrate, whether it big or small. There was always something that could go right. And when we do that, it really helps our brain focus on the ways that we can change and that we are growing. And so, how did you feel? Like, did you notice that too, that celebrating your wins, you felt like that helped throughout your journey?
I do. I wish I could remember more of them. And I don't know if you mentioned this as part of your program, but every Saturday you'll reach out and say, hey, let's celebrate your Saturday wins. So having to reflect on the week of a couple things that went really well. And I think it was just within the last week that I texted you. I haven't binged in months. I hadn't realized that I hadn't binged in months. And it felt so good to say that, to see such progress from something that had plagued me for years that I didn't know how to get on the other side of. And, there are times where I'll come home after a long day or I'll be out at night and get home and think, oh, I've got to walk through the kitchen because the garage, like I have to walk through the kitchen to then get upstairs. And so I have to walk by the food. And more often than not, I think that doesn't appeal to me. Even if the idea comes like, oh, well, you're walking right by the food. You can have the food. I'll think, but I don't want to go back there and I'm not really hungry. If I am hungry, great, I'll sit down and have a snack. But to have that self-control of asking myself, do I really want this? Because I've created better habits now. It feels so good.
Yeah. Tell me about Oreos and the Costco chips, because I know those are two things we worked on a lot. What are your thoughts about them now?
I was really scared as part of your program when you said, okay, let's try you having those foods that I think I would label bad. I'm trying to remember, you call them something different in the program. You don't call them bad foods, but trigger foods. You said, I'd like for you next time you go to the store to pick up those trigger foods and have them. And I didn't want to do that. I don't know if it was that I didn't trust you or I didn't trust myself, or part of it too was that I just wasn't craving those because I tend to feel so much better when I'm eating whole foods. And so I didn't want to do that. And I would go to Costco and I'd walk right by the Costco-sized bag of Himalayan chips and think, I don't want those in the house. And it's not that I don't think I'd enjoy them, but I don't want them enough. Like I would only want a few, so I don't want to pay for a full-size bag. The Oreos, I think there were some at work. And they were the little mini bags, like, just it's one serving and you're done. And I had some at work. And sometimes I get headaches after those because I don't really have much added sugar. I'll use date sweetener instead if I want something to kind of sweeten it up. And so I don't always feel great after those. But anyway, on a trip, maybe 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, I was walking by the cookie aisle and I thought, you know what? Let's try it. Let's see how it goes. I've had that same double stuffed package of Oreos in the pantry for 6 weeks or 2 months. I don't know how long before they go bad anymore. And I bought some Girl Scout cookies too. My niece was selling them. I've had a couple and they're in the freezer and I don't really crave them, which is so different because in the past I would think, oh, they're here. I got to have them. I got to go to town. And it was so telling when I was at work one day when there was a box or two of Girl Scout cookies in the break room. And I looked over at them and thought, I could have those. I don't really want those. And so I just sat there and I ate my celery soup that I'd made, which sounds so silly. I mean, the old me would have thought, why are you eating celery soup when you can have all those cookies? But I learning to listen to my body, I know what feels good. And I feel better having the celery soup with the rice or quinoa, whatever was in it, than I would after eating a couple cookies and getting a headache.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I remember that day because so me and Jen both vegetarian veganish. And when Jen sent me that, I was like, that is so me too. Or I would be like loving the celery soup over the cookies. And I still do love cookies, of course. And I'm sure you do still enjoy Oreos from now and then.
Yes.
But notice how like what we did with Jen and what we do in the program is we decrease your desire for these foods. So you start telling yourself the truth about them instead of this story about them that's like, oh my gosh, they're so good, they're so delicious, I can't stop at just one, I'm addicted to them, I need more. We start to recognize the truth of them, which is like you mentioned, like I get a headache after one of those packs if I have more than that, or sometimes it just doesn't feel great. And when we start to tell ourselves the truth about how the foods feel in our body, then we just can get to the place where we don't really want them anymore, paired also with, of course, this abundance mindset of knowing that we can have them again. You probably don't feel like you want a cookie because if you wanted one in 30 minutes from now, you could go get one. So there's no really need to go panic and eat them right now because they'll be available for you when you want them again.
It's so funny too. I just don't think I ever saw a day where this would be the case. But if I want one, I'll go into the kitchen and I'll pull out my. I feel like I'm plugging Costco a lot right now, but I'll go in and I'll get a cookie or maybe two, put it on a plate, and I'll get my Costco-sized thing of peanut butter and put some peanut butter on the cookies. So I'm having the cookie, but then I'm having some protein. So I'm going to feel fuller and it's a much better experience. But also, as someone who likes to be in the kitchen and meal prep, I also know I can make some cookies from scratch and it's all ingredients that I know and I will feel better about those too. So just reminding myself that I have options. And just because I have a thought, oh, there's Oreos in there, I don't feel any more like I have to act on it. Whereas in the past, I would think, oh, if I want a cookie, I better go get that cookie ASAP. And now I think, okay, it's in there, but would I rather have something else that's already prepared and that I know will satiate me more than a cookie?
Yeah, I love that. So as we wrap up today, if someone is on the fence and they're unsure about whether or not they should join the program, what would you say to them?
I loved when I got the notification earlier today that some of my money was going to the Confident Eater program. I got that email and I thought that is money well spent. And there was one time when it came through and I think I'd been thinking about, should I eat? I'm not really hungry, but should I have some food anyway? And I saw that go through and I thought, nope, I am paying because I am becoming someone who makes different choices now. So money is a great way to hold yourself accountable. And then to know there are those check-ins and the weekly coachings. I remember the last time I'd eaten when I wasn't hungry, it was a Saturday night and I felt like I should just treat myself because I had developed that habit. And so I was eating and I wasn't hungry. And then when I think I texted you or messaged you, or maybe it was part of our next coaching, you asked the question, why did you eat if you weren't hungry? It's a simple question, but it really got me to thinking about why am I doing things that I know aren't the best for me? So it really helps to have someone else who gets it. And it's nice too, just to have someone, because I could probably talk about these things with my friends and maybe some of them would open up and say, oh, I do that too, or I struggle too. But to have someone who's really spent the time and has the tools to help you make different and better choices, it's money well spent.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I've never heard someone say that they love seeing it coming out, but I think that is such a beautiful thing because a lot of times we do think about how much do things cost us versus how much are they saving us and what are they leading us to and being an investment. And that's really what I think about coaching as is like, I am so personally glad that I came out of my eating struggles at such an early age because it has saved me from a lifetime of extra food costs, extra health costs, extra mental health costs. Like so much extra pain. And so when we can know, hey, I have someone who is there to hold my hand every step of the way, there to keep me accountable, there to give me all the support I need, there to really help me change my eating habits for good, it can feel really good to know that we've invested in something and it's really truly a gift to give ourselves, which is the gift of change and transformation and solving our eating issues for the rest of our life so we don't have to worry about them anymore.
And when you see that you make progress in this one area, it really does, it gives you confidence that you can make changes in other areas of your life too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jen, thank you so much for coming on today and talking with everyone. Is there any last minute thoughts that you have? Otherwise, we'll wrap up.
One of the quotes that I wanted to share, and I don't remember if I read this in a book or where it came from, but it's so easy to procrastinate, whether it's food or anything. Yeah, I'll get around to that. I'll get around to that. And I really enjoy this quote. It says, "Don't disrespect your potential by procrastinating." So whether that's helpful for you in your food journey or anything else, it's like there's no better time to start making a change and stop procrastinating than today.
So good. I love that quote. Well, thank you, Jen. I will talk to you later.
Look forward to it.